Okay, so academic law, Wordlist 1, what are we doing? Number 5 here. Context, just pronunciation of this. That is a cluster. So a cluster, I think I've mentioned this before, but just to repeat, a cluster is like a consonant and a consonant together. Now this is a 3-consonant cluster. Two consonants are sometimes hard, 3 is harder, and it's a common error to have a problem with things like this. Context. Context. Say it slowly and stretch it out if it's a problem. Context. And kind of spit the t. Context. There's a puff of air, isn't there? Remember that little partitive expression? A puff of air. There's a puff with a p, t, d. All our plosives have a puff of air. So to get a nice clear t, context. Context. Aussies might say context. You know, blow enough. But you listen to that Chris Smith, that naked scientist guy, you know, the BBC voice, context. That's what's nice about that BBC voice. They get all their clusters nice and, you know, really crisp and clear. That's why I'm suggesting you listen to a lot of that and try practicing it, especially for context, for cluster practice. It's good stuff. Okay, pushing on 6, Nimika.
This airline seat sale requires you to book your ticket at least a month in advance.
Good, yes. Requires. Try saying requires.
Requires.
I'm hearing some people say it right, requires. Put your finger there and hold that last sound. Requires. It's voiced, isn't it? I'm hearing, I think it's kind of, I'm hearing a requires. If you want the native, like, you know, what people are saying, requires. Remember, most S's, most are z. We haven't got to the rule yet, but that is the case, most are. 7, Alex.
We have noticed a significant improvement in Teddy's attitude since you had a talk with him.
Good, Teddy's a good boy now. Good stuff. Significant improvement. That's it. Collocation, isn't it? Quite a few of these collocations. Yeah. 8. Majok. FA.
I think that the percentage of students who have to repeat a level of these problems is usually about 25% or less.
Yeah, that's it. Percentage. Yep, definitely less. Definitely less. Here. 9, Kate. That's it. Export. It's only a bit like get an or rather than an because you don't want to confuse it with expert. Export. And that stress is important here. Export, verb. Export. Noun. Export. You export water. Water is an export. So that's a common pattern. You've probably learnt this before, that nouns and verbs that are written the same way. The tendency, it's not an absolute rule, but the tendency is for the noun to have what we call the first syllable stress or what's called front stress. That's called front stress, when the front of the word is stressed. You know, it's like contract, contract.
The last one.
Various, there's a whole family of these.
Come back to number 8. The student, the percentage of students that have to repeat.
Yeah. You can use that.
Should we or must we use who?
You can say who, you not must. No, you can use that quite a lot. Oh, I saw a man that was walking down the street. No one, that's absolutely fine. I know most people have learned who for people and that for objects. The rule is you can't use who, obviously, for an object. But you can use that for people. You can do it, and it happens quite a lot.
They say dead guy or something like that.
That's different.
Yeah, that's different, but
that's a determiner. That's pointing that right. It's like
how
the.
can you use dead instead of who, like?
Okay, it's a relative pronoun we're talking about here. So, the woman that served me was very polite, not like the woman that was here yesterday. That's absolutely natural and native-like, and it's okay. Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
The second one, which is authority, the answer is authority. I just have a concern that he is mentioned to a person.
Yeah.
And then well-known authority, isn't it a bit like inappropriate? I don't
Inappropriate. Inappropriate.
Yes.
No. It's almost a collocation. She is a well-known authority on metaphysics. He is a well-known authority on child behaviour. It's the whole thing.
So what is exactly authority mean?
It means, as Muhammad said, like expert. It means if you're an authority on something, you're an expert in it.
It's an authority sounds greater than expertise. Like
in a way,
like a bigger word.
it has a strong sense of substance to it. Yeah. I mean, they're both pretty high up, but it does have this serious substance to it. Yeah, it's that kind of feel. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
does it have a meaning like they have right to control the things, like authority?
Authority in other contexts can absolutely mean that. So we've got two senses here of authority, haven't we? We've got authority, and the authority, the authority of the leader is absolute. Whatever they say, no democracy. So it's power and control. Remember, we're doing academic words here and in the academic context and the academic subculture. So when we see authority there, often it's more this sense, like an expert. Yeah, that's the general point to make about lots of these words. When we use them kind of in everyday life, they might have a different meaning. When you use them in academic context, they've got their own particular flavour or meaning. A really good example is criticise. So in everyday life, criticise is kind of negative, isn't it? Oh, you're always criticising me, But criticise in the academic context is a positive word. It means you're not just swallowing stuff and not thinking about it, you're analysing it, and you're asking all the questions possible about the nature of the research, and is the data accurate or biased, that's critical, being critical. So even the adjective critical, it's a positive word. But generally, in everyday life, it's more negative.
It can be positive or negative.
Yeah, in academic terms, generally, it's positive. But generally, outside of academic area, it's more negative, isn't it? So yeah, that's just one example. There are many, and when you work through these lists, you might find it a bit funny. Oh, here's this word being used differently from how I'm used to hearing. You may know the word. When you look in a dictionary, and it would say criticise, and it might say 1, 2, 3, and it has like 3 definitions, pretty common, it could have more. Those things are called senses, the sense of a word, the different meanings of the same word, the sense. So that's again a word, if we all know it now, I can use it, I can say that word has 3 senses. Yeah, so criticise has these different senses to it. Okay, pushing on, we did number 10, Lita.
It is generally quite difficult to raise a family on a single income in Canada today, so very often both parents work full time.
That's it. Good, thank you. And often can be often or often. You can say it both ways. I say it with a silent T, often. But you can say often. I don't think there's any regional pattern to that. Yeah. All right, so put a mark on the top. How did your partner go? Put a mark there, hand it back. and we'll move on to our next exercise.
8 out of 10. Object.
Now some of you probably finished early, so you had the time to think about these. Now we'll all think.
Very easy.
Okay, so we've done the work on kind of the meanings and fitting them into sentences. Now a bit of collocational work. So my point is here, and as I said on Monday when I introduced these words to you, knowing a word is not just knowing what it means. And if you want to actively use it, most of the time words are in collocations of some form, aren't they? So getting really flexible and varied with your collocations is important. So that this is another exercise you can do with the academic word list. Okay, how many, we'll turn it over to your groups now, like 4s and 3s, or there's a 5 there I guess, and a 4 and a 3. How many collocations can you think of for each of these? Let's move fairly quickly, like just 3 minutes per word. Okay, 3 minutes per word. So I'll set the timer. Go with your thoughts. Context. It's a noun, so you're going to probably have adjectives, aren't you? Adjective before that one. See what you can do.
Yeah.